From mad rock stars to pinball wizards and paranoid androids, who doesn't love a good concept album? The concept album had its heyday in the 70s, but it's become increasingly popular in recent decades, and it remains the perfect medium for conveying a broader story through music. Some concept albums consistently rank among the greatest albums of all time, while others, sadly, fall into obscurity. In this video, we'll explore a few of the lesser-known ones. So, without further ado, let's embark on a bizarre journey of aliens, Vikings, and hobbits. Here are 5 underrated concept albums that are sure to blow your mind. Number 5. Music inspired by Lord of the Rings, Bo Hansson. Now, we all love the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but another fantastic adaptation of Middle-earth actually came out 30 years earlier, created as a reading companion to Tolkien's epic. Bo Hansson's music inspired by Lord of the Rings has been called the greatest soundtrack to a book ever. The album features 12 instrumental tracks, largely characterized by Hansson's signature Hammond organ and entrancing psychedelic soundscapes. Funnily enough, the record company couldn't afford a professional studio, so they rented a house in the Stockholm archipelago, and Hansson recorded the album there. This turned out to be a genius move, as the natural environment lent a rustic feel to the album, fitting thematically with Tolkien's love for the countryside. Critics have cited music inspired by Lord of the Rings as both a classic of space music and progressive rock. But despite this, it's largely unknown to the wider audience. Number 4. In Search of Ancient Gods, Absolute Elsewhere. While we're on the topic of fantasy, our next album is based on the books of Eric von Däniken, notably his controversial bestseller Chariots of the Gods. Däniken's books were among the first to introduce the ancient astronaut theory, claiming that aliens visited Earth long ago and gave rise to early human civilization. As a long-time sci-fi geek, Chariots of the Gods fascinated me when I first read it in my teens, and the album does an awesome job of capturing the book's mystical aura. Look no further than the 11-minute epic Miracles of the Gods, a piece that just takes you to another world. The song transitions from vast cosmic synthesizers to a gorgeous flute melody, a haunting piano solo in the middle, and then back to its original theme. Note that Bill Bruford of Yes and King Crimson fame is on the drums, and his punchy progressive drumming is a real highlight of the album. All in all, In Search of Ancient Gods is a trippy and underrated gem that really gets the imagination flowing. Well worth checking out for fans of this type of music. Number 3. Tales of Mystery and Imagination, the Alan Parsons Project. Yet another album based on a literary source, Tales of Mystery and Imagination explores the poems and short stories of Edgar Allan Poe, such as The Telltale Heart, The Raven, and The Fall of the House of Usher. The latter especially takes you into Poe's macabre world, with its cinematic orchestration and chilling organs, accompanied by the sounds of thunder and rain. This 15-minute piece paints a spooky picture of haunted Gothic mansions. While the rest of the album doesn't quite match this intensity, it's still full of great songs, catchy hooks, and not least stellar production. Alan Parsons famously engineered what many consider the best concept album of all time, The Dark Side of the Moon, and at times his sonic textures bear a striking resemblance to that record. Just take The Beautiful to One in Paradise, which almost feels like an alternative Us and Them, in a good way. although Tales of Mystery and Imagination is easily the most well-known album on this list, the band's more commercially successful records often overshadow it, and on the whole, I think it deserves way more recognition. Number 2. Nude, Camel. Some might be familiar with the fascinating story that inspired this album. Hiro Onoda was a Japanese soldier who, after refusing to believe World War II was over, fought for another 29 years before finally surrendering in 1974. While taking some creative liberties with the original story, Camel tells the tale of the titular character Nude, who suffers a similar fate, expertly recounting all the beats through some stunning performances. For instance, in Docks, as Nude boards the warship, a funky but menacing bass line gives off an ominous vibe. And in Captured, hectic synthesizers swarm our ears, symbolizing Nude's last stand and final surrender. The band guides listeners through the plot with the help of a written story inside the album. But whether you choose to follow along or not, the music still provides a more than satisfying journey. Nude remains one of the best and most underrated prog albums of the 80s, a decade otherwise known for more or less killing the genre. Number 1. Lucky Leif and the Longships, Robert Calvert. Out of all the albums on this list, our final entry is probably the most bizarre. Robert Calvert's Lucky Leif and the Longships explores the idea of how American music and culture would be different if the Vikings colonized the continent, showcasing everything from rock to pop, country, jazz, and even reggae. It's a diverse but also very humorous album. Just take the ironic Lay of the Surfers, which parodies the Beach Boys' sound and lyrics. However, don't let the album's goofiness deceive you, because it shines in its more serious moments, like in the surprisingly beautiful Voyage to Vinland.
Heading for the gods alone, nowhere, and the waves did.
It's also worth noting that Brian Eno, one of the greatest musical masterminds of all time, produced the album. His magic touch and distinctive sound, as always, are a real strength. In the end, Lucky Leif is a very strange album, but you do have to admire its originality. Decades later, the influence of Vikings and Norse mythology would become prevalent in metal music, showing that the eccentric Robert Calvert truly was ahead of his time. Have you listened to any of these albums? What concept album do you feel deserves more recognition? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoy my content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe.